Am I the asshole for not inviting my unsupportive sister to my wedding? I, 24F, got engaged to Derek, 30M, 1 month ago. Prior to that, we had known each other for 6 months. I know that's not a long time, but when you know, you know. We are madly in love and ready to commit ourselves to each other fully. My sister, 26F, has a problem with that though. She was supportive of my relationship with Derek before we got engaged. When I sent her a text telling her we were engaged, she responded by saying, "Congratulations." But then when I saw her the week after that, she got all serious and said I should strongly consider the marriage. She told me I was young and could meet people I loved more. That was offensive to me because I love Derek more than anything, and she's basically saying my love isn't that important. She also told me that Derek and I could date for longer before we got married. But we are already fully committed to each other, so we might as well get married and be recognized as soulmates in the eyes of the law. Anyway, the conversation was so hurtful to me. I eventually asked her, very directly, "Do you support me marrying Derek?" She said no. So I stood up, told her she shouldn't be at the wedding if she didn't want us to get married, and left. I haven't talked to her since, although she has texted me multiple times asking to talk. Derek and I were working on the wedding guest list yesterday, and we both agreed my sister should not come if she doesn't support us. So we are planning not to invite her. I mentioned this to my friend yesterday, and she pointed out that it may be a little rude of me not to invite her. So, am I the asshole for not inviting my unsupportive sister to my wedding? You are the asshole. You have not known him long enough to actually love him, you are infatuated. On top of that, you are ready to ruin the relationship with your sister for a guy you actually do not know? Edit. The fact that he is ready to allow for estrangement is very concerning. Second edit. Narcissists and abusers like to isolate their victims. That is my concern regarding him encouraging the rift with her sister. I don't know if you are the asshole per se, but I think you're being very naive and I agree with your sister. You are the asshole. You're upset because your sister expressed honest concern. Your response was childish. And kicking her out of your wedding is equally so. You are the asshole, 6 years older man, 6 months total length of relationship. That is throwing red flags all over the place. Your sister is trying to protect you. It is possible that your relationship will be okay, but I doubt it. You are the asshole. I'm sorry, but 6 months ain't enough. What's people's problems with waiting? I don't get it. Y'all can't be madly in love for like a year or something? Cold sweat smile. Also, your sister is just concerned. It doesn't mean she doesn't like your fiancé or is unsupportive of y'all's relationship. Just the getting married so fast part. Am I the asshole for telling my wife to lighten up over a cheating joke my coworker made? My wife and I ran into our coworker earlier today. He has never met her. I introduced her to him. He jokes around often, and when I introduced them to each other he said, "I thought Alexis was your wife." She's a coworker. Him and I laughed, but not my wife. He noticed because he got serious and said, "I'm kidding, nice to meet you." After we got home my wife asked me who Alexis was. I told her she's a coworker. She then asked me, "So, what's that all about?" I told her if she's serious and it was clearly a joke, to lighten up a little. That didn't help. She said to never laugh at things like that. I thought it was a harmless joke. Needless to say, she wasn't happy still when I left. AITA? You are the asshole. That's a light-hearted joke if your wife already knows Alexis. If she doesn't, then it sounds like you're flirting with someone at work so much it's become a running joke around the office. Obviously she's upset. Even I, based on this story, am wondering if you're sleeping with Alexis. Jokes like that don't get made with no basis. If they did they wouldn't be funny. What's the joke exactly? That he noticed you might have a wife-like connection with a woman who isn't your wife. This guy definitely doesn't know your wife well enough to make a joke like that. You are the asshole. If making jokes about cheating is funny, I'm assuming that you would laugh just as hard if her friends joked about her cheating on you with some guy they all know but you'd never heard of. Oh wait, that's not funny? So weird. You are the asshole. You are the asshole. This is icky. Your coworker thought it would be funny to joke about infidelity and used the name of a real person that you work with. And you laughed and completely minimized and disregarded how disrespectful that was to your wife and your marriage. A partner who I trust completely has a seemingly joke with his coworker about a relationship with another woman who I have never heard of before. Call me paranoid if you want, but some of my trust and respect would be eroded. And I'd be watching very carefully. You are the asshole. You saw that your wife didn't laugh at your coworker's comment, so it has to bother her. Also, the fact you've never mentioned Alexis would raise concerns for her. This would have been the time to explain why your coworker would think that about Alexis to assuage her concerns, not brush them off as a joke. Is there a reason why your wife knows nothing about Alexis? Am I the asshole for telling a guy to move his crying baby out of a quiet enclosure at the zoo? I, 19M, visited the zoo today with my family and we were checking out the koalas, who I was especially excited to see. You may not know this, but koalas apparently need over 18 hours of sleep a day to function, or else they can get quite unhealthy quite quickly, and so any exhibit of them at a zoo will often come with an expectation that you maintain a certain level of silence while observing them. This zoo today was no exception. You are made to go through 2 gates, both of which have signage saying, "Please be quiet, keep the noise down, silence please," etc., and then the door to the koala house itself has another sign, "Please keep noise levels to a minimum." With all those reminders, I figured people would get the memo, but as soon as we entered the enclosure, which was a small room indoors with a glass window looking into the koala pen, I spotted a couple in their early 30s with 2 young kids and a baby. I somewhat apprehensively tried to observe the koalas. They were so cute and my little sister was happy to see them. But then, like clockwork, the baby starts crying. Hardly the baby's fault, it's a baby. They cry, so I gave the dad of the family the benefit of the doubt, thinking he'd either take the baby out or calm her down. A few moments pass. The baby gets more annoyed and cries louder. The koalas scurry away, hiding in their cubby holes, and others wake up from their sleeping. I give the dad the look. I feel like everyone knows the look. We've either had someone give it to us or given it to someone else. I'm not sure I'd ever been on this end of it, but I definitely received some looks at times. Baby continues to cry. I, being a socially awkward autistic teenager, grapple with the idea that the dad might have missed my giving him the look, so I do the classic. I shake my head and give a little sigh. No change. I throw another look his way, this time a little more firm, but I feel like I overdo it. My eyes are a little too intense. Perhaps because suddenly the dad is saying, in the voice of someone who's just gotten a lecture, "Well, all right mate. It's just a baby," to which I reply with a gesture towards the sign, "Silence, please." "But it's a baby." He says. "Well, don't bring a baby in here," I reply, in a whisper. My parents jump on me, thinking I'm out of line, and the couple and their kids give me the filthiest of looks and leave the enclosure, leaving me feeling very tense. What do we think? I feel like this is a very common struggle in a public place where there aren't always members of staff to enforce the rules. We want to pick our battles, of course, but this family bringing their baby in spoiled my little sister's magical moment seeing a koala for the first time. Surely they should have seen the signs and thought, probably best to not bring little Charlie in. Or, if they really wanted to see the koalas, the dad could have stayed outside with the baby and the mum and the kids could have gone in. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. And to those saying it was not OP's place to enforce the "quiet please" signs. Yes, it was. The koalas cannot protect themselves. They depend on the humans to not deliberately hurt them by disturbing them with loud noise. And when some humans are dumb enough to not understand this, the smarter humans will have to tell them and make them stop. The zoo should put a member of the staff in this room to stop this kind of nonsense, but since there was none, OP did the right thing. What the ever-loving fuck? You are the asshole. I'm an animal scientist and zookeeper in Australia, working exclusively with natives. Koalas sleep so much cause they eat food that gives them fuck all energy, on par with pandas in the dumbass animals working towards their own extinction category. You're not gonna wake them up with a crying baby. And if you do, they'll survive. It's not Silent Out bush. In fact, koalas are loud as fuck when they're looking to get some. It's not on you to enforce the rules. It's also a dumb rule, but probably more for the keepers than the animals. You get real sick of kids screaming constantly. Lol, you are the asshole for this bullshit post. Every Australian will tell you the idea that koalas need quiet is laughable. Also, if you saw an animal scurry, it wasn't a koala rolling on the floor laughing. I call BS. Koalas don't scurry. They can't scurry. They lumber. Either you're making stuff up or this zoo doesn't actually have koalas. They have drop bears and you're all in danger. I find this story perplexing. Koalas have been kept at the San Diego Zoo for almost 100 years and they have a thriving breeding program. The exhibit is open air and not at all quiet. Am I the asshole for leaving my wife and infant to attend a funeral? My wife and I recently had our first baby, and she's 3 months old now. A few weeks ago my family was hit with a massive tragedy. I'm still struggling to come to terms with it. I wanted to travel to the funeral, but my wife didn't want to come with the baby. She didn't want me to go either and said I should be spending the time with her and our daughter, and once she's a little older we can all go to visit my family. I tried to explain this is important for me, but she wouldn't hear it. Mind you, I was planning to go for less than 3 days, left the night before the funeral and flew back the morning after. I went last week and during this time my sil came and stayed with my wife. My wife is mad at me and said it was selfish of me to go, and my priority should be them right now. I really don't think I did anything wrong here, but my wife and even my sil said what I did was completely wrong. Here for opinions because I guess we're all biased one way or another. As the new mother of a 4-month-old, not the asshole. It was 3 days. Yes, it's important that you support your wife, but this was for a family funeral, not a boys' trip to Vegas. Not the asshole. It was a funeral, not a fishing trip. And it was 3 days. Having a baby means that sometimes you have to take care of it alone for a variety of reasons. And in this case your sil came to babysit your wife and child. Not the asshole. No matter in what mental state she is right now, you found someone to come in and help her. Attending a funeral is not putting your family before your wife and kid. Your wife and kids are not dying or in immediate need of you. Attending a funeral is a critical part of the grieving process, for you and for people around you. You needed to be there. If your wife can't understand that, she is selfish. Not the asshole. This wasn't a planned trip or something that could be postponed to a later date. It was a funeral. It's unfortunate that it happened when it did, but I think your wife needs to be a bit more understanding. Life doesn't stop just because you had a baby. Not the asshole. The baby is small, but not super tiny, and at a good point in the learning how to manage baby's timeline. A family funeral is a rare time for many people to fly in from all over, and share family history, connect and reaffirm their relationships with each other, and share their common loss. It's an unrepeatable event.